we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time watching, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever wanted to reach out to the podcast, let us know anything, topic, ask us a question, whatever. Hit us up on our DMs at the Bigmark podcast or at the Bigmark pod on our Instagram, on our Twitter. You can support the podcast. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. You can check out different levels there to donate to the podcast or help us out, help us keep the lights on as we do. And again, I really appreciate you taking your time here. You could have been anywhere in the world and you chose to be here with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And I really want to grow the community. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the video, like the channel, do all that stuff, like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that as well. And again, spread the word, let your friends know, give us a rating, give us a review. Take your time wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thank you again for being here. I'm excited about tonight's episode. It was an interesting. It was a great weekend. It was just a long weekend here in Canada, in Ontario, the civic holiday in August, and it was my good buddy Julian's wedding. He married his beautiful wife Sarah, and a few months ago he asked me to be the MC for his wedding, and I was beyond honored, excited, nervous a little bit because I'd never done the duties of an MC. I'd never been that. I've been in a friend's wedding party before, but if you're not the best man, you're kind of just like a little bit along for the ride, and it's a great time, but yeah, you're kind of just ripping and dipping. But the MC is a relatively important job, and it was kind of one of those things where, you know, and Julian and Sarah were very, very nice about it and casual, but you know, they told me what I was to expect, and talking to other people and being like, hey, you know, have you ever been an MC? You know, what do you usually do? Some people were like, oh, it's such an important job. You know, you're basically like the host of the wedding, which is pretty interesting. And I mean, like, I'm pretty sure there are like professional MCs, or like basically some DJs like are also kind of like MCs. But I've been at weddings where the MCs are phenomenal. Like my buddy Lep and his wife, Ryan Lepine, and his wife Shanna, they got married, and their good friends, Jess and Jeff, which is hilarious, were the MCs, and they were just so funny, and they played off each other well, and it was cool because it was two people, but they were like really, really close with the bride and groom, and you know, I love my friend Julian. You've seen him on the podcast a few times, but you know, we haven't known each other as long as those friends did, like Jess and Jeff and Ryan and Shanna. So they were all like, it was just such a fun wedding and really good. So I tried to channel a little bit of that, but I've also been at weddings where the MC was good at kind of like getting things going, making sure, you know, things were moving well and there wasn't a lot of awkward silences and things like that. So I tried to take that into account. And it's funny, I don't remember anyone being like a bad MC. Maybe someone who kind of was a little bit, I wouldn't say lazy at it, but just didn't care as much potentially as far as being bad. But there's a lot that were like just not memorable at all. Like you'd never remember. So I kind of also wanted to be not bad, but I wanted to be, you know, not like stealing the show. Again, this isn't about me. This is about Sarah and Julian, right? So I wanted that to be the case. Sarah did give me a little bit of an outline that did kind of had like some general ideas, and I kind of was like, oh well, say a little speech maybe at the beginning, introduce myself and say something about the couple and make a little toast and things like that. But again, it was mostly just like getting things going, moving people from table to or from like, hey everyone, come to the tables. Hey everybody, it's time to, for dessert. It's time for dinner. It's time for speeches. Time to party. So tons of fun. But what intrigued me or what inspired me to do today's podcast was talking to a bunch of Julian's friends who I got to know a lot of his groomsmen because I was at the rehearsal and, introducing them and doing all that fun stuff. And they're all kind of like rocking guys. They're all from the city. They're all just like really, really cool fucking dudes. And I had a really good conversation with one of Julian's groomsmen, Nick. And we really got into talking about tattoos because everybody in that crew was tattooed tons. Like my buddy Julian's got full sleeves going on, tattoos all over. And so did my buddy Nick, who I was chatting with. But it was kind of funny because it got me kind of thinking about like, oh man, like I've always kind of wanted a tattoo, but never really never got one. I have no tattoos. As much as you guys know me as the rocker, as Mark, the musician, the even the athlete. Again, like in today's day and age, tattoos are so popular, right? Like everyone, like seemingly anyway, everyone has them. And, I've always respected them. A lot of people that like, there's always been some kind of aura of cool surrounding it, or at least aura of danger. I don't know. Growing up in Hamilton has always been an interesting thing because I've seen a lot of really shitty tattoos and really bad tattoos, and almost, I can't confirm necessarily gang related, but a lot of like criminal prison kind of looking tattoos, really, not the best. And in talking with Nick, he had some really cool ones. He had this one that was like a match that's burnt. And he's like, oh, this is like my Neil Young tattoo. And I was like, oh, is that like better to burn out than to fade away? And he's like, oh shit, yeah, like no one ever gets it. And that, like, honestly, in that moment really clicked with me a lot. And that's what, again, inspired me to talk about it and try to go into some depth today. Is that, it doesn't have to be so blatant. I think that's something that I struggle a lot with my art, where I want to convey a message and I want to convey that message as clearly, as concisely as possible, but that takes away a lot of the kind of like life and blood from it. It's, still in a way as an exact science, but a science nonetheless, not an art, where sometimes the beautiful, the thing that even in visual art, right, is all about symbolism and all about like tricking your brain into thinking about something by showing you different things that might not even necessarily be evident in the superficial, right? It's all about looking deeper and trying to find meaning underneath the superficial. And I feel like that tattoo that Nick has is just like a perfect example of, it doesn't have to be blatant in your face. And in fact, when a lot of people don't get it, that's actually like kind of fucking cool. And we end up talking, Nick and I, more and more about tattoos. And, he was kind of saying like, obviously it's such a personal thing, right? Like a tattoo is such a personal thing. It's permanent, obviously, but it's ultimately your choice. So even when I'm talking about bad tattoos, this and that, who cares? It's the person who has the tattoo. That's the only person that's the only person who should care what that tattoo looks like. And I kind of get it. Like it's interesting, and again, maybe we'll come to some type of conclusion by the end of of today's episode, but it just there's something that is still just holding me back. So I was talking to Nick, and he was kind of saying, like, think about getting a tattoo, for a year. And if you still want it after a year, you should get it. And I have to admit, I've been thinking about at least one tattoo that I have the design for. And when I say at least, there's actually a couple that I can think of. Three. I can think of right now 3 off the top of my head that I know I'd want to get. And, like growing up, being around a few people that actually had tattoos. Yes, not many. Like a lot of my friend group didn't really get into it super major. Like, I don't know, I guess I had like a bunch of like pretty goody two shoes friends, but a lot of us were just like athletes and stuff, and it was hard for us to get tattoos and deal with it and hide it from our parents because we're all of a sudden going to be on the fucking basketball court with our shirts, with our fucking basketball jerseys on that are at least showing our arms. So we're definitely not getting a tattoo on our arms. I'm sure some of my teammates had a tattoo, like at least by the end of high school, but I don't know, thinking about it. I know my boy Dan Mack actually definitely played basketball with him. He's a legit tattoo artist now, so I don't know when he first got his, now that I'm thinking about it. But again, it's one of those things where I wasn't like majorly exposed to it. And the few that some people I knew had weren't really my bag. They seemed kind of corny. And I know at one point, one of my mom's boyfriends, he had like a barbed wire kind of tattoo, which was like so corny, classic, like just like picked it off the wall kind of thing. Was like, yeah, that one looks good. He was always like, make sure no one can see your tattoos. So again, even the bit, even from a person who actually had fucking tattoos, he was like, make sure no one can see them. So in my mind, I'm always like, why am I getting a fucking tattoo if no one can see it? But again, I love musicians and athletes and actors and badassery and in general, biker shit. Like I've always kind of been down for that. Again, from fucking Hamilton, Ontario. Like it's around. It's not like I've never seen it. But Ink Master. I loved watching Ink Master, especially in university. Shout out Murph Navarro. But again, I appreciate the artistry. There's some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tattoos out there. Like obviously from Neo-American classic, like all that stuff. Like I could go into the history and Sailor Jerry and all this fucking cool shit, but like again, that's something where I feel like I can't necessarily speak on it as much. I want to try and find this deeper reason why at this point, because it's so popular. So many fucking people have fucking tattoos now. Why the fuck haven't I got a tattoo? I'm pretty sure everyone in my band has one. I don't know about actually John Harley. I got to ask John Harley. Maybe Lord doesn't have one either. Oh my God. But again, at least my old band, for fuck sure, tons of tattoos. Everybody. I was fucking surrounded. And I do have, like I mentioned, I do have right off the top of the head 3 fucking designs, right, that I know I could do right now. The one of them is, it's kind of like, I don't know exactly. I guess placement is another thing too, right? Because that was another thing Nick and I were talking about, right? Is like where do you actually want to do it? Because even Nick said fucking all of his tattoos he can hide. Like if he wears like long sleeves. So do I keep that in mind, right? Especially for a tattoo, do I even want it to be seen? What if I don't like it? Obviously. We're racking up ideas here, folks. We're trying to get down to the deep part of it. We're trying to get down to the fucking nitty gritty here. Now, the other thing too is the not only the placement, but what style bugs me, because I'm like, what do I go with the same style? You know what I'm saying? But the first idea, like I was saying, is basically would be not a very large tattoo, but probably like about 4 inches, maybe 3 inches by 5 inches kind of thing. I was kind of imagining, I love going up to, my friend's place in Huntsville. Anywhere up there, just Muskoka, that Northern Ontario, or getting up to North Ontario kind of vibe, Red Lake, all that stuff, right? Just there's something that I love where you have where you have islands with trees on them, and you're taking your boat down through these channels and stuff, and it's just fucking trees on rocks right to the edge of the water, and you just see the trees going. It's just fucking the black water, amazing. What I kind of picturing in my head is a tattoo where, and I do admit, I understand, again, I know many of you are listening only to this podcast, and also the ones that are watching this podcast as well. I'm not drawing these designs up right now. I can't show you them right now. They're only in my head, but I'll explain them as best as I can. My idea anyway is the idea, or sorry, the image that you're seeing is that tree line, like I'm explaining. Like, I love the trees and the water. You're looking at that tree line and it's reflecting into the water, right? So imagine trees reflecting into the water. You're seeing that line, that mirror line right there. But instead of actual trees, so the tattoo is the trees, and instead of the trees reflecting their exact shape, they're reflecting a sound wave. So it's kind of like a little bit of this, because I heard another person say this before, is I think it was Chris DiStefano, shout out Chrissy D, comedian extraordinaire. He said when he was getting his tattoos, he was thinking, what's something that I'm always going to be? I'm never going to not be this certain thing. He's like, I'm never not going to be from Ridgewood or wherever, Queens, where he was from, New York City. And he's like, I'm never not going to be Catholic. So those are the tattoos that he has, right? So it's like, I could be like, all right, I'm never not going to be from Hamilton. I can do tattoos like that. I'm never not going to be a musician. I can do tattoos like that. So again, that's music, stuff like that. But I don't want to fucking hit the nail directly on the head and, just get like, I love music, period, tattooed on me somewhere. I don't know. Again, this is that whole idea of trying to go a little bit deeper into something, but then not also be corny. Like that's another fear knocked up into the tattoo category, into why Mark doesn't have a tattoo. What if I choose a fucking design and a style that is corny as fuck? Like, there's so many dudes that have, trees tattooed on themselves somewhere in mountains and shit. And it's like, fuck. Some people, I guess it works, but like, it's just going to be barbed wire again. Like, this is what I'm scared of, right? Are we just going to have another fad thing and be like, it's just fucking tribal tattoos again and this whole thing? Because obviously there's a history to tattooing. There's a beautiful history that goes deep and ancient, and you have like the first known tattooed human was that like Iceman that they found in the fucking in the permafrost ice when it thawed, I should say, and he was from like basically 3100 BC. So we're talking like 5,000, like at least history at least shows that more than 5,000 years ago we've been still tattooing people. And again, that's where those tribal designs, essentially, potentially, wherever they came from, Hawaii, the other Amazonian cultures, like there's tattooing that exists there, African cultures, and a lot of those designs do come from actual tribes. So, but did it get weird with appropriation? It just got, some of those fucking tribal tattoos were just so fucking whack. they're, used as rites of passage and all that stuff. So obviously, tattooing has been with us so long. I'm really lucky, if I do ever bite the bullet and, and decide on some of these other designs too. Like I'm thinking of, if anyone knows the portrait of a skeleton with a cigarette, it's a Van Gogh, painting. And I wanted to get that in black and white with Memento Mori written above and below it. So I don't know, like, are these ripoffs? What if someone else has one? Again, we're just taking a trip into the mind here. And then the big one that I do want to do, which I feel like I could get done in Hamilton, because there's some pretty cool shops that I'll mention. But I want to do it on my upper left thigh, and it's in like that, like kind of either neo traditional or neo American style or traditional American style. I haven't decided which, but in Hamilton, there, we're obviously known as being the Steel City. And as you come into town and as you come into the East End, you pass through all the industrial area, and you get to see all that. You get to see all the stacks and smoke and all the hard work going on. And there's one smokestack that is always there, that is always on fire. It's a big one. It's burning off some type of fucking chemi. And it's kind of colloquially known, or at least in my family, we jokingly called it the Eternal Flame. And as a kid, I remember driving home and driving through that area and seeing that, and wherever we were driving from, Toronto, wherever, Niagara Falls, wherever, from that direction anyway, I knew that we were close to home. And it's a beacon. And it's also kind of fucking funny because obviously it's a greasy fucking factory. But I want to kind of get that done with some clouds and some smoke coming out of some other stacks behind it. And then I want to get in the font of the Wizard of Oz. I want to get the Eternal Flame. So wherever I get that done, I would like to get it done in Hamilton, obviously it being a Hamilton themed tattoo, but there's some great ones in town: Cottage 13, Epoch, High Five, Baby Bird. Probably between those two I'd probably go. And in fact, actually my buddy Mike Norman, shout out Mikey, he's got his he actually, there's an artist that, and I think he's still living in Hamilton, he might have moved to Toronto or back and forth, that is working at one of these shops in Hamilton and has done some work on my buddy Mike. And Mike has like 2 like full leg sleeves. So again, he's always been in my life too as a positive influence on tattoos. But again, he's definitely in the camp of going like, yeah, like, get it if you want, but like whatever you want. And he's also kind of been a little bit in that, or he's been at least an example to me that you can kind of like mix styles. Like no one's saying that you have to be only tattooed in one type of style. Maybe I'd like that. Maybe I wouldn't. I don't know. I have a pretty eclectic style in life. And maybe that also fucking is why I haven't got tattoos, because I express myself in a different sense, and I like wearing wacky clothes sometimes. And not that this shirt is wacky, but hey, there's that whole idea of kind of like walking into a place and like flash designs, and there's like shit on the wall, or like you like pay a quarter or whatever. It's probably like $50, and then you get what you get tattoos. That fucking shit scares the shit out of me. Like it comes out in like a gumball machine, and it just unravels, and you're like, here you go. You just got to get that tattooed on you somewhere. I'm sure, like, I guess you can fucking walk out and you lose your $50 or something like that. But that shit fucking scares me. But it's kind of funny because I got from a friend of mine, Sophie Williams from Shed. Her Instagram handle is S Will Designs, and she actually has like tattooed inspired art, which I thought was really cool. And I actually picked up one of her flash sheets. And again, it's like, so it's the art, man. I appreciate the art so much. And, you know, it's interesting because so many people have tattoos now. So many people. And it used to be very, very few people had tattoos, and it gave even more meaning to tattoos. And some people would say, you know, you're sacrificing your job and your livelihood and what type of jobs you're going to get and how people are going to view you if you have these tattoos. But like now, since more and more people have them, I feel like it's really hard for people to kind of be like, oh, anyone with a tattoo is like a bad person. And I think people like look past that a lot. So I should probably get over that fact. But like, have we devalued what a tattoo is? You know, my uncle Mark has I think a couple, but at least one tattoo by an artist where he essentially went there and told them, hey, I'd like a tattoo. And the artist said, okay, I'm going to make you a tattoo, but you can't see this. I think he was maybe able to see the design once and potentially make some. I don't think so. I'm pretty sure they were like, this is going to be the tattoo and you're going with me. I'm going to ask you some specific questions. You're going to tell me your story. I'm going to make you a tattoo, but you're not going to be able to fucking see it till it's on you and done. I'm just going to do the tattoo without you seeing the design before. And I know for like a first tattoo, that would be pretty wild, but that could have been actually my uncle's first tattoo. But there's something special to that. There's something deep. There's some meaning. There's some special, like, you know, when you're telling the story of that tattoo, every little bit of it has a special meaning and you can talk through it. And maybe that was a part of why some of our ancient ancestors were tattooing themselves as well, right? In those ancient tribal traditions where you're able to use those tattoos kind of as a roadmap, shout out Prison Break, as a roadmap to tell stories and look through things and look through the ages and look through family history and personal histories. And, you know, does that really exist as much anymore when people are just getting fucking flowers tattooed on themselves or just getting, you know, pointless designs? Now, designs that have a meaning and you're getting something, you're saying, hey, I'm going to get that flower because it reminds me of home and that grew on where I grew up. That has meaning. That's something special. But when you're just like, oh, I like the look of that, or, you know, that symbol is cool, or that symbol is like has a special meaning behind, it doesn't even have a special meaning behind it. That symbol is like, it I like the shape of it, man. Like, it's cool. See, this is where I can't get judgmental. To the person that owns the tattoo, the person who's getting the tattoo on their skin, that's the most important person. That's who the tattoo should count to. That's who it should really be. And why haven't I got one? There's definitely a hint of being afraid to commit to something. I'm kind of one of those kids that I have a bunch of stickers and they're not stuck to anything. They're just like in a fucking envelope, just like I'm collecting them and I'm not putting them anywhere. And that's kind of this weird like embodiment of anxiety in a way where it's like, I don't want to put this somewhere that it's got to be the perfect place. You got to have it. Oh, it has to, you know, I can't just like stick it anywhere but then it's not a fucking sticker anymore. It's supposed to be put somewhere. And I do have a table that does have a bunch of shit on it, and it kind of looks like a severely tattooed person. So I don't know, man. I'm an enigma. I'm a mystery wrapped in a riddle. I don't know. I can barely figure myself out. But maybe I should get that one. Right on the leg there. So what? If that one doesn't work out, it's going to be under my shorts even. Keep it nice. Keep it out of the sun. It's probably a good spot to start. Hey, Mikey, what do you think? Anyway, thanks for letting me ramble on about the old tattoos. We'll see if I get one. I think I might. Maybe Maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, thanks again for listening. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter at @thebigmarkpod, @thebigmarkpodcast. Reach out. Let us know. Tell your friends. Rate the podcast. I love y'all. Thanks for being here. Get some tattoos. Peace.